Plastic has become such a fundamental part of our modern world that it's hard to imagine life without it. From the packaging that protects the food we eat to the components that make up our smartphones, cars, and homes, plastic's lightweight, durable, and inexpensive nature has cemented its role in nearly every aspect of our daily lives. However, despite its convenience and usefulness, plastic has created one of the most serious environmental crises of our time. The mounting accumulation of plastic waste choking our oceans, polluting our landscapes, and entering the very air we breathe has forced humanity to ask a daunting question. What if we simply stopped using plastic products altogether? To consider such a scenario is to imagine a seismic shift that would ripple through ecosystems, economies, societies, and technologies on a global scale. The environmental benefits might be immediately visible and profound, but the challenges in adapting to a plastic-free existence would be immense and multifaceted. This exploration aims to paint a comprehensive picture of what the world might look like if we collectively decided to eliminate plastic usage, examining every angle of this unprecedented transformation. Plastic's journey began in the early 1900s, but gained significant momentum after World War II. The post-war economic boom and the rise of consumer culture led to an explosion in plastic production and consumption. Plastic's rise was driven by its unique ability to be molded into any shape, its durability, and, importantly, its affordability. It quickly replaced more traditional materials like glass, metal, and wood in packaging, construction, textiles, and consumer goods. The era of single-use plastic truly began in the 1960s and 70s, introducing plastic bags, bottles, straws, and disposable utensils into everyday life. These products epitomized convenience, enabling a fast-paced lifestyle fueled by throwaway culture. Today, the world produces over 400 million metric tons of plastic every year, a figure that has increased exponentially from just a few million tons in the mid-20th century. This massive surge in plastic production correlates with a global environmental emergency. Plastic waste accumulates in landfills, rivers, and especially oceans, where it harms marine life and enters the food chain. Marine animals mistake plastic debris for food, leading to injury or death, while microplastics, tiny plastic particles, have been found in fish, drinking water, and even human blood. The durability that makes plastic so useful also means it degrades incredibly slowly, persisting in ecosystems for hundreds or even thousands of years. Plastic production is also closely tied to fossil fuel consumption, with most plastics derived from petroleum or natural gas. This link means that plastic manufacture contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions, exacerbating climate change. The extraction, refinement, and processing of fossil fuels for plastics is energy intensive, adding another layer of environmental cost beyond the pollution caused by waste. So, what would happen if the world suddenly stopped producing and using plastic? Imagine governments worldwide enforcing bans on plastic production and sale, industries scrambling to find alternatives, and consumers forced to rethink habits honed over decades. The cessation of plastic use would eliminate new plastic waste and reduce fossil fuel demand, offering immediate environmental relief. Rivers and oceans, no longer inundated with plastic debris, would begin to heal. Marine populations might recover, and terrestrial ecosystems would be spared from the slow but steady infiltration of plastic pollution. Over time, the toxic load in soils and waters from plastic additives would diminish, benefiting both wildlife and human health. The reduction in fossil fuel extraction for plastic manufacture would be another positive outcome, curbing emissions linked to climate change. Yet, this hopeful scenario is complicated by the deep entrenchment of plastic in global supply chains. Plastic is not just a packaging material, it is integral to manufacturing, construction, healthcare, transportation, electronics, and many other industries. Its unique combination of properties, lightweight, durability, chemical resistance, and low cost, make it challenging to replace. In the immediate aftermath of banning plastic use, industries reliant on it would face massive disruption. The packaging sector, responsible for a significant portion of plastic use, would need to pivot to alternative materials such as paper, glass, metal, or emerging bioplastics. However, each alternative carries trade-offs. Glass and metal are heavier and more energy-intensive to produce and transport, potentially increasing carbon footprints despite being recyclable. Paper is biodegradable but often less durable, requiring more resources for production and sometimes causing deforestation if not sourced sustainably. Bioplastics derived from plants or algae offer promise but face challenges related to cost, scalability, and their own environmental impacts, especially if industrial composting facilities are not widely available. In the food industry, plastic packaging plays a critical role in preserving freshness and preventing spoilage. Without plastic, food wastage could increase, potentially offsetting some environmental gains. Transportation industries, including automotive and aerospace, rely on plastic composites to reduce weight and improve fuel efficiency. Alternatives might increase vehicle weight and emissions. Healthcare faces a particularly complex challenge, as many medical devices, sterile packaging, and disposable supplies depend on plastic for safety and hygiene. Developing safe, effective replacements would be a priority, but not without risk. The economic consequences of ending plastic use would be enormous. The global plastic industry employs millions of people worldwide, and its sudden contraction would lead to job losses and economic instability, especially in regions heavily dependent on plastic manufacturing. The value chains built around plastic raw materials, production, distribution, and recycling would need restructuring. Governments would be tasked with managing this transition through policy interventions, worker retraining programs, and economic diversification strategies. Conversely, the demand for alternatives would spark new industries and job creation. The bioplastic sector, sustainable packaging companies, advanced recycling technologies, and circular economy initiatives would all see accelerated growth. Startups innovating with mushroom-based packaging, seaweed films, and other novel materials would flourish. Repair, reuse, and sharing economies could expand, transforming consumption habits and fostering new community dynamics. Consumers, too, would need to undergo significant lifestyle changes. The culture of convenience associated with single-use plastics, disposable cutlery, straws, shopping bags, food containers, would give way to a new era focused on reusability and sustainability. Bulk buying, bringing reusable bags and containers, and rejecting unnecessary packaging would become norms. The fast food and takeout industries, heavily reliant on disposable plastics, would need to adapt their models or face decline. Clothing would also change profoundly. Today, synthetic fibers like polyester, nylon, and acrylic, essentially types of plastic, dominate the fashion industry because of their durability, stretch, and cost-effectiveness. Transitioning away from these materials would require increased production of natural fibers, such as cotton, wool, hemp, and flax. This shift could have positive environmental effects if managed sustainably, but would also demand changes in agriculture, supply chains, and consumer preferences. Technological innovation would be critical to this transformation. Researchers and engineers would be pushed to develop new materials that replicate plastic's desirable properties without the environmental cost. Biodegradable plastics that break down safely in natural environments, edible packaging that leaves no waste, and lightweight composites made from renewable resources would become central to industry strategies. At the same time, improvements in recycling technologies would be necessary to maximize recovery from existing materials and reduce landfill burdens. However, there are complexities to consider. Alternative materials, if not carefully sourced and managed, might have their own environmental drawbacks. For example, paper production requires significant water and energy and can contribute to deforestation. The transportation of heavier packaging materials might increase fossil fuel use. Bioplastics might compete with food crops for land and resources, raising ethical questions about their scalability. Moreover, plastic's low cost makes it accessible to all socioeconomic groups. Removing plastic without affordable alternatives risks raising costs for basic goods and services, disproportionately affecting low-income populations. Policymakers would need to ensure equity in this transition to avoid exacerbating social inequalities. On a global scale, a coordinated policy effort would be essential. International agreements to phase out plastic production, manage waste, and promote sustainable materials could provide the framework for collective action. Governments might implement extended producer responsibility laws, requiring companies to manage the entire life cycle of their products. Incentives and subsidies could help stimulate research and support businesses transitioning away from plastic. Public education campaigns would be vital to shift consumer behavior towards sustainability. The cultural implications of eliminating plastic are also profound. The convenience and disposability of plastic have shaped consumer mindsets around consumption, waste, and convenience. Moving away from plastic would require a shift toward valuing durability, repair, and mindful consumption. It could foster stronger community connections through sharing economies and local production. Ultimately, stopping plastic use worldwide would be a monumental and multifaceted challenge. Yet, the environmental benefits of such a shift could be transformative. Cleaner oceans, healthier ecosystems, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, and a reversal of plastic pollution's pervasive damage. The economic and social upheaval that would accompany this transition are not insurmountable but demand careful planning, innovation, and global cooperation. As we consider this scenario, it becomes clear that plastic's convenience comes at a hidden cost, one that future generations may pay dearly if unaddressed. The question is not just what would happen if we stopped using plastic, but whether we can muster the political will, technological ingenuity, and social commitment to make that choice before irreversible damage is done. If humanity can rise to the challenge, the reward is a cleaner, more sustainable planet where resources are respected, ecosystems thrive, and societies prosper in harmony with nature. The plastic crisis is perhaps the defining environmental issue of our era, and ending plastic use, while difficult, may be one of the most important steps towards securing a livable future for all.